Crash landing. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before Captain Aria Chen as she piloted her scout ship through an uncharted sector. Humanity had spread across the stars, but there was always more to explore. Aria lived for these solo missions, pushing the boundaries of known space. A sudden alarm blared through the cockpit. Aria's eyes widened as she saw a massive asteroid field materialize directly in her path. She gripped the controls, expertly weaving between the rocky debris. Just as she thought she was clear, a chunk of space rock clipped her wing. "No, no, no!" Aria shouted as warning lights flashed across her console. The ship spun wildly, hurtling towards a nearby planet. She fought to regain control, but it was useless. All she could do was brace for impact as the ground rushed up to meet her. The crash was violent. Metal shrieked and tore as the ship plowed a deep furrow across an alien landscape. When the dust settled, Aria found herself hanging upside down in her harness, blood trickling from a gash on her forehead. She released the buckles and dropped to the ceiling-turned floor with a groan. "System status," she croaked. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a diagram of her ship crisscrossed with red lines. Hull breached in multiple locations, engines offline, life support critical, distress beacon functional. Aria sighed in relief. At least someone would know where to look for her. But rescue could take weeks or even months. She needed to find food, water, and shelter in the meantime. Grabbing her emergency pack, Aria forced open the twisted hatch and emerged into an alien world. Two suns hung low on the horizon, bathing the landscape in an eerie orange glow. The air was thin but breathable. Scrubby vegetation dotted rocky hills that stretched as far as she could see. Well, Aria muttered to herself, no one said being a pioneer would be easy. She set out to explore her surroundings, her trained eye scanning for anything useful. As she crested a hill, she froze in disbelief. In the valley below stood crude structures that could only be the work of intelligent beings. Smoke rose from several points, and she could make out movement. Aria's heart raced. First contact. It was the dream of every explorer and the nightmare of every military strategist. She had to proceed carefully. As she made her way down the slope, a sound caught her attention. Aria spun around to see a figure ducking behind a rock. It was roughly humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was a mottled green-gray, and its head was oversized and elongated. "Hello," Aria called out, raising her empty hands. "I mean you no harm. I'm a peaceful explorer." The alien peeked out, blinking large, liquid eyes. It chittered something unintelligible and gestured frantically. Before Aria could respond, a group of much larger aliens appeared, brandishing primitive spears. They surrounded her, jabbering in their strange language. One prodded her with his weapon. Aria slowly reached for the universal translator at her belt. "Easy now. I'm just going to activate a device to help us communicate." As soon as she touched the device, the aliens reacted with panic. The leader shouted an order, and Aria felt a sharp blow to the back of her head. The world spun, and then everything went black. She awoke in darkness, her head throbbing. As her eyes adjusted, Aria realized she was in some sort of cage made from lashed-together branches. Outside, she could see the glow of a large bonfire. Alien voices rose and fell in what sounded like heated debate. Aria took stock of her situation. They had taken her pack and equipment, but missed the small multi-tool hidden in her boot. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As she began working on the cage's bindings, a face appeared at the bars. It was the smaller alien she'd first encountered. It studied her with obvious curiosity, then slipped something through the branches, her translator. "Thank you," Aria whispered, quickly activating the device. It would take time to build a lexicon, but at least now she had a chance at communication. The alien chittered softly, and the translator produced a rough approximation. "Danger, you danger, they fear." "I'm not dangerous," Aria insisted. "I'm lost and alone. I need help. The alien cocked its head, considering. Then it reached through the bars and activated a hidden latch. The cage door swung open. Come, the alien said. I hide you, then talk. Arya hesitated only a moment before following her unlikely savior into the alien night. Whatever came next, she knew this was the beginning of something extraordinary. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization rested on her shoulders, and she was determined not to let her species down. As they crept through the shadowy village, Arya's mind raced with questions. Who were these beings? How had they evolved? And most importantly, how would this encounter reshape the future of both their species? The answers would have to wait. For now, survival was her top priority. But Arya couldn't help feeling a thrill of excitement beneath her fear. This was why she had become an explorer, to push the boundaries of human knowledge and experience. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Arya Chen was ready to face them. The fate of two worlds now hung in the balance, and she was determined to bridge the gap between human and alien, no matter the cost. First contact. The alien led Arya through a maze of crude dwellings, always keeping to the shadows. They finally arrived at a small hut on the outskirts of the village. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of strange herbs. Safe here, the alien said through the translator. I am Zix. Healer, learner. Arya nodded, grateful for the help. I'm Arya Chen. I come from a planet called Earth, far from here. Zix's large eyes widened even further. Skywalker. From beyond stars. That's right, Arya confirmed. My ship crashed. I didn't mean to come here, but now that I have, I want to learn about your people. Over the next few hours, Arya and Zix exchanged information. The translator struggled with complex concepts, but they managed to communicate the basics. Arya learned that Zix's people called themselves the Narith. They lived in small, scattered tribes across the planet's habitable zones, eking out a simple existence. Others fear different, Zix explained. Think you demon or trickster spirit, want to kill. Arya frowned. I need to show them I'm not a threat. Can you help me? Zix hesitated, then nodded. I try. But dangerous. As dawn broke, Zix left to speak with the village elders. Arya used the time to study her surroundings. The hut was filled with primitive medical tools and bundles of dried plants. Despite their technological limitations, the Narith clearly had a rich culture and deep knowledge of their world. Hours later, Zix returned with news. Elders agreed to meet, but you must prove worth. What do I need to do? Arya asked. Hunt a Katha, Zix said gravely. Fierce beast. Many die trying. Arya's heart sank. She was an explorer, not a hunter, but she knew this might be her only chance to gain the Narith's trust. I'll do it, she said firmly. Zix provided her with a crude spear and explained the basics of Akatha hunting. The massive six-legged predators roamed the nearby hills, preying on the Narith's livestock. If Arya could kill one, she would prove her value to the tribe. As she set out into the alien wilderness, Arya felt woefully unprepared. Her only advantages were her determination and the advanced survival training all Earth explorers received. She would have to make it count. For hours, Arya tracked the Akatha through rocky terrain. The beast's massive paw prints and the occasional tuft of coarse fur marked its passage. As the twin suns reached their zenith, she finally caught sight of her quarry. The Akatha was even more terrifying than Zix had described. It stood taller than a bear, with razor-sharp claws and a mouthful of dagger-like teeth. Arya's primitive spear suddenly felt very inadequate. Taking a deep breath, she formulated a plan. Using the rocks for cover, she maneuvered into position above the creature. Then, with a silent prayer to whatever gods might be listening in this alien world, she leaped. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Arya's initial strike wounded the Akatha, but it fought back with terrifying strength. Claws raked her arm, drawing blood. She lost her spear in the scuffle and found herself wrestling with a monster on the rocky ground. Just as Arya thought her quest would end in failure and death, her hand closed around a jagged stone. With every ounce of strength she had left, she brought it crashing down on the Akatha's skull. The beast shuddered and went still. Bloodied and exhausted, Arya somehow managed to drag the Akatha's carcass back to the village. The Nareth was stunned. No single hunter had ever taken down an Akatha alone. "You have great spirit," the village chief said through Zix's translation. "Perhaps Skywalker, not demon after all." Over the next few days, Arya's status in the village improved dramatically. The Nareth were fascinated by her stories of Earth and the stars beyond. In turn, Arya learned more about their society and history. The Nareth, she discovered, had once been more technologically advanced, but a great calamity in their past had destroyed much of their knowledge. Now they lived in fear of angering the spirits they believed controlled their world. Arya saw an opportunity. With the scientific knowledge, she could help the Nareth reclaim their lost technology. But she had to be careful not to overwhelm or frighten them. She started small, showing them how to purify water using simple filtration. Next, she introduced basic concepts of agriculture to improve their crop yields. The Nareth were quick learners, eager for any knowledge that could improve their lives. As weeks turned into months, Arya became a respected member of the tribe. She learned their language, customs, and beliefs. In return, she carefully introduced concepts from Earth, always framing them in ways the Nareth could understand and accept. But not everyone was happy with the changes. A faction of traditionalists, led by the tribe's shaman, saw Arya's influence as a threat to their way of life. They whispered that she was a demon in disguise, sent to lead the Nareth astray. Tensions in the village grew. Arya knew she was walking a fine line between helping the Nareth progress and respecting their culture. One misstep could undo all the trust she had built. The situation came to a head when a young Nareth fell ill with a fever that resisted traditional treatments. The shaman insisted it was the wrath of the spirits, punishment for abandoning the old ways. Arya recognized the symptoms of a bacterial infection. She knew she could treat it with antibiotics synthesized from local plants, but doing so would mean openly challenging the shaman's authority. As she stood over the sick child, Arya made her decision. She couldn't stand by and watch an innocent suffer when she had the power to help. Whatever the consequences, she had to act. "I can heal him," Arya announced to the gathered tribe. "Not with magic, but with knowledge. Will you let me try?" The child's parents looked to the chief, who nodded gravely. "We trust you, Skywalker. Do what you must." As Arya set to work, she knew she was crossing a line. There would be no going back now. For better or worse, she had committed to guiding the Nareth into a new era. The fate of an entire civilization now rested in her hands. As she administered the medicine, Arya silently vowed to do everything in her power to ensure that the Nareth's journey into the future would be a peaceful and prosperous one. But deep down, she knew the road ahead would be far from easy. Technological revolution. The young Nareth's recovery was nothing short of miraculous to the tribe. Within days, the child was back on his feet, playing with his friends as if he had never been ill. This event marked a turning point in Arya's relationship with the Nareth. The success of her healing magic gave Arya the credibility she needed to introduce more advanced concepts. She began with basic hygiene and sanitation, explaining germ theory in terms the Nareth could understand. The tribe's overall health improved dramatically in the following months. Next, Arya focused on improving their tools and farming techniques. She introduced the concept of crop rotation and taught them how to make simple machines like pulleys and levers. The Nareth's productivity soared, and for the first time in generations, they had a surplus of food. As the seasons changed, Arya's influence spread beyond her adopted village. Word of the Skywalker and her incredible knowledge traveled to other Nareth settlements. Soon, representatives from distant tribes began arriving, seeking to learn from Arya. With each passing day, Arya saw the Narith take steps towards reclaiming their lost technological heritage. She helped them rediscover metallurgy, showing them how to smelt ore and forge stronger tools. The Narith spears and farming implements were replaced with more efficient iron versions. But it wasn't just practical knowledge that Arya shared. She told them about the vastness of space, the countless stars and planets beyond their world. She described Earth and its varied cultures, sparking the Narith's curiosity about the universe beyond their planet. Zix, who had become Arya's closest friend and most eager student, was particularly fascinated by the concept of writing. Together, they developed a written form of the Narith language, allowing knowledge to be preserved and shared more easily. "This is amazing, Arya," Zix said one evening as they worked on transcribing Narith oral histories. "Our stories will live forever now, not just in memory." Arya smiled, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes. "Knowledge is powerful, Zix. It can be used to build or to destroy. We must be careful how we introduce these changes." Her concerns were not unfounded. The rapid advancements were causing significant shifts in Narith society. Traditional power structures were being challenged as those who embraced the new knowledge gained influence. The shaman and his followers, once the unquestioned spiritual leaders of the tribe, found their authority diminishing. They began to speak out more forcefully against Arya and her dangerous ideas. "The Skywalker brings nothing but chaos," the shaman proclaimed during a tribal gathering. "We must return to the old ways before it's too late." But the majority of the Narith were too enamored with their newfound knowledge and improved quality of life to heed these warnings. The shaman's followers dwindled, pushed to the fringes of society. Arya watched these developments with a mixture of pride and apprehension. She knew she was irrevocably changing Narith civilization, and she often wondered if she had the right to do so. But every time she saw a child reading a book or a farmer using an irrigation system, she felt she was doing the right thing. As the years passed, the pace of advancement accelerated. Arya introduced the concepts of mathematics and physics, laying the groundwork for even greater technological leaps. The Narith began to experiment with steam power, and the first simple engines appeared. With Arya's guidance, they built their first telescope, allowing them to see the stars up close for the first time. The night she showed them the rings of a distant gas giant was one Arya would never forget. The looks of wonder on the Narith faces reminded her of why she had become an explorer in the first place. But even as Narith society flourished, Arya felt a growing sense of unease. She had long since given up hope of rescue from Earth, having accepted that this alien world was now her home. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something that would put all her work with the Narith to the test. Her fears were realized one clear night as she and Zix were charting stars. A bright light appeared in the sky, growing larger by the second. At first, Arya thought it might be a meteor, but as it drew closer, she recognized the unmistakable shape of a spacecraft. "Zix," she said, her voice tight with tension. "I think we're about to have visitors." The Narith gathered in the village square, watching in awe as the ship descended. It was far more advanced than Arya's crashed scout vessel, sleek and powerful. As it landed on the outskirts of the village, Arya's mind raced. Were these humans coming to rescue her after all these years? Or was this a new, unknown alien species? The ship's hatch opened with a hiss and a figure emerged. Arya's heart sank as she recognized the distinctive environmental suits of the Krell, a notoriously aggressive species she had learned about during her training. "Everyone, stay back," Arya shouted, moving to place herself between the Narith and the Krell visitor. The alien's synthesized voice boomed across the square. "This planet has been claimed by the Krell Empire. Submit to our rule or face annihilation." Arya felt a chill run down her spine. Everything she had worked for, everything the Narith had built, was now threatened by this cosmic bully. She knew the Narith were in no position to fight off a technologically superior invader. But as she looked around at the faces of her adopted people, Arya saw not fear, but determination. The Narith had come too far to simply roll over and submit. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. Stepping forward, Arya addressed the Krell invader. This planet is home to a sovereign species. We reject your claim and your threats. Leave now or face the consequences. The Krell laughed, a harsh, grating sound. You have one planetary rotation to reconsider. When I return, I expect your full surrender. As the ship took off, Arya turned to the assembled Narith. We don't have much time, she said. But if we work together, we might just have a chance. The next 24 hours would determine the fate of the Narith civilization. Arya knew she had to use every bit of knowledge and ingenuity at her disposal to prepare for the coming confrontation. The technological revolution she had started was about to face its greatest test. Rising tensions. As the Krell ship disappeared into the night sky, a wave of panic swept through the Narith village. Arya knew she had to act fast to prevent chaos. Listen to me, she called out, her voice cutting through the frightened murmurs. We've faced challenges before, and we've overcome them. This is no different. We have knowledge, we have skills, and most importantly, we have each other. Zix stepped forward, supporting Arya. The Skywalker speaks truth. We are not the same Narith we were when she arrived. We are stronger, smarter. We can fight this. The chief nodded gravely. What do you propose, Arya? How can we stand against such advanced weapons? Arya took a deep breath. We can't match their technology, not in the time we have. But we have something they don't, an intimate knowledge of this planet and its resources. We'll use that to our advantage. Over the next few hours, Arya outlined her plan. They would use the planet's unique properties to create defenses and traps for the Krell. The village buzzed with activity as every Narith was given a task. Arya led a team to the nearby crystal caves, where they harvested minerals with unique electromagnetic properties. These would be used to disrupt the Krell's communications and scanning equipment. Zix organized another group to prepare a potent mixture from local plants, creating a powerful adhesive that could potentially immobilize Krell machinery. The village's best hunters set traps in the surrounding forests, using their knowledge of the terrain to create a treacherous path for any ground invasion. As dawn broke, Arya surveyed their progress with a mixture of pride and anxiety. They had accomplished much, but would it be enough? Suddenly, a commotion arose from the edge of the village. The shaman and his followers had emerged from their self-imposed exile, and they were not happy. See what your progress has brought us, the shaman shouted, pointing an accusing finger at Arya. The sky spirits are angry. They send these demons to punish us for abandoning our ways. A crowd gathered, tensions rising as the two factions faced off. Arya stepped forward, trying to calm the situation. This isn't about old ways or new ways, she said. This is about survival. We need to stand together. But the shaman wasn't finished. You brought this curse upon us, Skywalker. Our only hope is to offer you as a sacrifice to appease the spirits. The crowd's mood shifted dangerously. Even some of those who had supported Arya began to waver, fear and superstition battling with reason. Zix moved to stand beside Arya. No, he shouted. Arya has done nothing but help us. Without her, we would still be cowering in ignorance, easy prey for these invaders. The chief raised his hands, calling for silence. We cannot fight among ourselves when a greater threat looms. Shaman, your concerns are noted, but now is not the time for division. We will face this threat united, or not at all. The shaman scowled but backed down. However, Arya knew this wasn't the end of the conflict. The stress of the impending invasion was bringing long-simmering tensions to the surface. As the day wore on, scouts reported sightings of Krell ships performing flyovers, likely scanning the planet's surface. Arya knew they were running out of time. In a quiet moment, Zix approached her. Arya, there's something I need to show you, he said, his voice low and urgent. He led her to a hidden cave deep in the forest, one she had never seen before. Inside, Arya gasped. The The walls were covered in ancient murals depicting advanced technology, spaceships, energy weapons, and more. Our ancestors, Zix explained, they were not always as we are now. They came from the stars, like you. Aria's mind reeled at the implications. But how? Why did they lose all this knowledge? Zix's eyes were sad. A great war. Our ancestors chose to abandon technology, seeing it as the root of their downfall. They erased their history, wanting us to start anew. And you've known this all along? Aria asked, a hint of betrayal in her voice. Zix nodded. Only the shamans kept the secret, passing it down through generations. I learned when I began my healer training, but I saw in you a chance for us to reclaim our heritage the right way this time. Aria sat heavily on a nearby rock, overwhelmed. Everything she thought she knew about the Nareth had just been appended. But there was no time to fully process this revelation. They had a battle to prepare for. Thank you for showing me this, Zix, she said finally. It doesn't change what we need to do, but it does change how I see your people's potential. As they made their way back to the village, a new determination filled Aria. The Nareth weren't just fighting for their present, they were fighting for their future, for the chance to reclaim their true heritage. The sun was setting as they reached the village outskirts. Suddenly, the ground shook with a tremendous impact. Aria looked up to see a massive Krell warship descending from the clouds, far larger than the scout ship from before. The Krell commander's voice boomed across the landscape. Your time is up. Submit or be destroyed. Aria exchanged a glance with Zix, both knowing that the true test was about to begin. The fate of the Nareth and the legacy of their forgotten ancestors hung in the balance. As the Nareth rushed to their positions, Aria took a moment to center herself. She had come to this planet by accident, but now she knew her purpose. Whatever happened next, she would stand with the Nareth, fighting for their right to choose their own path among the stars. The battle for the future of an entire civilization was about to begin, and Aria was ready to face it head-on. Interstellar threat. The Krell warship loomed over the Nareth village, its massive hull blotting out the fading sunlight. Aria's heart raced as she assessed the situation. The Nareth's preparations seemed woefully inadequate in the face of such overwhelming force. Everyone, to your positions. Aria shouted, her voice carrying over the panicked murmurs of the villagers. Remember the plan. As the Nareth scrambled to their assigned tasks, a hatch on the Krell ship opened. A platoon of armored soldiers began to descend, their environmental suits gleaming in the twilight. Leading them was a towering figure, clearly the Krell commander. Last chance, primitives, the commander's amplified voice boomed. Surrender now, or we'll take this planet by force. Aria stepped forward, standing tall despite her fear. We reject your ultimatum, she declared. This world is not yours to take. The commander's helmet tilted, studying Aria with interest. A human. Interesting. You're a long way from home, little one. Step aside, and we might spare you. I am home, Aria replied firmly. And we're not as primitive as you think. With that, she gave a signal. Instantly, the Nareth sprang into action. Catapults, hastily constructed from Aria's designs, launched volleys of the adhesive mixture at the Krell soldiers. Several were caught in the sticky substance, their movements hampered. Simultaneously, Zix activated the electromagnetic disruptors. The Krell's communications erupted in a cacophony of static, and their scanning equipment went haywire. The Krell commander roared in anger. Impossible. Attack. The battle erupted in earnest. Krell soldiers charged forward, energy weapons blazing. But the Nareth were ready. Using the terrain to their advantage, they led the invaders into carefully prepared traps. Pitfalls, snares, and more of the adhesive mixture took their toll on the Krell forces. Aria found herself in the thick of the fighting, wielding a makeshift energy deflector she had cobbled together from salvaged parts of her crashed ship. She deflected Krell energy bolts, giving the Nareth warriors openings to strike with their enhanced weapons. But despite their preparations, the Nareth were outgunned and outnumbered. Slowly but surely, the Krell began to push them back towards the village center. As Arya helped a wounded Nareth to safety, she caught sight of Zix. He was standing near the ancient cave, waving frantically to get her attention. "Arya," he shouted over the din of battle. "The cave, there's more." Understanding dawned on her. If the cave held records of the Nareth's advanced past, could it also hold forgotten technology? "Fall back to the cave," Arya ordered. "We'll make our stand there." As the Nareth retreated, Zix led Arya deeper into the cave complex. In a hidden chamber, they found what they were looking for, a cache of advanced weaponry, preserved from the Nareth's forgotten past. By the stars, Arya breathed, examining a sleek rifle-like device. "This is incredible." Zix nodded gravely. "Our ancestors left these for a time of great need. I'd say that time is now." They quickly distributed the weapons to the Nareth defenders. Arya gave a crash course in their operation, grateful for her training in xenotechnology. As the Krell forces approached the cave entrance, they were met with a barrage of energy blasts that rivaled their own weaponry. The tide of battle began to turn. Arya found herself face to face with the Krell commander. His armor was scorched and dented, but he still cut an imposing figure. "You've lost," Arya declared. "Leave this planet, or we'll be forced to destroy you." The commander laughed harshly. "You think a few ancient toys will save you? We have an entire armada in orbit. This is only the beginning." Arya's blood ran cold. She knew he was probably right. Even with the recovered technology, the Nareth couldn't hope to repel a full-scale invasion. But before she could respond, the ground began to shake. At first, Arya thought it was from the battle. Then she realized it was coming from deep underground. A deafening rumble filled the air. Both Nareth and Krell stopped fighting, staring in awe as the earth itself seemed to come alive. From the nearby mountains, enormous structures began to emerge. As layers of rock and vegetation fell away, Arya realized what she was seeing: massive defense platforms, hidden for generations, now awakening to protect the planet. Zix's eyes were wide with wonder. "The Guardians," he whispered. "I thought they were just legends." The platforms rose into the sky, dwarfing even the Krell warship. Energy began to build in their ancient weapon systems. The Krell commander's bravado evaporated. "All forces, retreat," he bellowed. "Back to the ship." As the Krell scrambled to escape, Arya turned to Zix. "Can we control these platforms?" Zix nodded, leading her to a hidden control panel in the cave. As Arya's fingers flew over the alien controls, she marveled at how intuitive they felt. It was as if the technology was designed to be used by both Nareth and humans. The Krell warship attempted to flee, but a well-placed shot from one of the defense platforms crippled its engines. It crashed into the uninhabited plains beyond the village. As the dust settled, Arya looked out over the battlefield. The Nareth were cheering, celebrating their unlikely victory. But she knew this was only the beginning. "Zix," she said solemnly, "we need to prepare. The commander was right, there will be more coming." Zix nodded, his expression a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "We have much to learn about our past, and quickly. But with you here, I believe we have a chance." Arya smiled, feeling a sense of purpose she hadn't experienced since crash landing on this world. The Nareth were on the brink of reclaiming their heritage, and she would be there to guide them. As the twin suns began to rise, painting the sky in brilliant hues, Arya knew that a new chapter was beginning, not just for the Nareth, but for herself as well. The journey ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in years, she felt truly hopeful about the future. Triumphant defense. In the weeks following the initial Krell attack, the Nareth village transformed into a hive of activity. Under Arya's guidance, they began to unlock the secrets of their ancestors' technology, integrating it with the knowledge she had shared from Earth. The ancient defense platforms served as a deterrent against immediate Krell retaliation, but Arya knew it was only a matter of time before they returned in force. They needed to prepare, and quickly. "We need to unite all the Nareth tribes," Arya announced during a council meeting. "This isn't just about our village anymore. The entire planet is at risk." The chief nodded gravely, agreed. "But how do we convince those who haven't seen the threat with their own eyes?" Zix spoke up, his voice firm. "We show them the truth. All of it. No more secrets about our past." And so emissaries were sent to every Nareth settlement across the planet, carrying evidence of their rediscovered heritage and warnings of the Krell threat. Many were skeptical at first, but the activation of the ancient defense platforms was impossible to ignore. As representatives from other tribes arrived, Arya found herself becoming a teacher once again. She worked tirelessly, helping the Nareth understand and control their reclaimed technology. But not everyone was eager to embrace this new path. The shaman and his followers continued to resist, warning that this return to the old ways would only bring more destruction. "Have you forgotten why our ancestors abandoned this power?" The shaman challenged during a heated debate. "It nearly destroyed us once. It will do so again." Arya stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "The technology itself isn't good or evil. It's how we choose to use it that matters. Your ancestors made the choice to start over. Now you have the chance to choose a different path, one that balances progress with wisdom." Her words swayed many, but the shaman and his most devoted followers chose to leave, retreating into the wilderness to preserve the true Nareth way of life. As the days turned to weeks and weeks to months, the planet underwent a rapid transformation. Dormant cities were reactivated, their advanced systems humming to life after millennia of silence. The Nareth rediscovered spaceflight, sending scouts to patrol their solar system. Arya watched these developments with a mixture of pride and concern. She had set these changes in motion, and she felt responsible for guiding the Nareth towards a peaceful use of their newfound power. Then, almost a year after the first attack, the alarm sounded. The scout ships had detected a massive Krell fleet entering the system. "This is it," Arya said, her voice steady as she addressed the united Nareth leadership. "Everything we've worked for comes down to this moment." The Nareth were ready. As the Krell fleet approached, they were met not by a primitive world ripe for conquest, but a fully awakened technological civilization. The space around the planet bristled with defense satellites. On the surface, energy shields shimmer over cities and vital installations, and in orbit, a hastily constructed but formidable Nareth fleet stood ready. The Krell commander's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Impossible. What trickery is this?" Arya opened a channel, her holographic image projected before the Krell fleet. "This is no trick. The Nareth have reclaimed their rightful heritage. This world is protected. Leave now or face the consequences." For a moment, there was silence. Then, the Krell fleet opened fire. The battle that followed was unlike anything Arya had ever experienced. Energy beams crisscrossed the void of space. Missiles and counter-missiles exploded in dazzling displays. On the planet's surface, the ancient defense platforms rolled to life, their powerful weapons reaching up to strike at Krell ships. Arya found herself in the thick of the fight, coordinating the planet's defenses from a command center deep underground. Zix was by her side, his intimate knowledge of Nareth systems proving invaluable. The Krell pressed their attack relentlessly, their superior numbers beginning to tell. Several Nareth ships fell, their crews sacrificing themselves to protect their homeworld. Just as it seemed the defenses might buckle, Zix made a startling discovery. "Arya, look at this energy pattern. The Krell ships, they're all linked to a central command vessel." Arya's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. "If we can take out that ship, we can disrupt their entire fleet," Zix finished. It was a desperate gamble, but they had no choice. Arya quickly formulated a plan, gathering the best pilots and the most advanced ships they had. I'm going with them, she announced, strapping herself into a flight suit. Zix looked alarmed. But Aria, we need you here to coordinate. She cut him off with a shake of her head. I started this journey with the Narith. I need to see it through. The strike team launched, weaving through the chaos of the battle. Aria's ship took the lead, her Earth pilot training combining with Narith technology to perform maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. As they approached the Krell command ship, its defenses opened up with a vengeance. 2 Narith ships fell, but the rest pressed on. Aria's ship took a glancing hit, alarms blaring as she fought to keep control. Almost there, she gritted through clenched teeth. Everyone, focus your fire on my mark. In a perfectly coordinated strike, the Narith ships unleashed their full firepower on a single point of the Krell vessel. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a massive explosion blossomed from the impact site. The Krell command ship broke apart, secondary explosions rippling along its length. Almost immediately, the rest of the Krell fleet fell into disarray. Without central coordination, their formation crumbled. The Narith pressed their advantage, methodically dismantling the invading force. Within hours, it was over. The remaining Krell ships fled the system, leaving behind the wreckage of their once mighty armada. As Aria's damaged ship limped back to the planet, cheers erupted across every Narith communication channel. They had done it. They had defended their world and proven themselves on the galactic stage. In the days that followed, as the Narith began the process of rebuilding, Aria found herself reflecting on her incredible journey. She had come to this world as a lost explorer and found a new home, a new purpose. What now? Zix asked her as they stood watching the sunset, the sky still occasionally lit by falling debris from the battle. Aria smiled, a mix of excitement and determination in her eyes. Now we look to the stars. The Narith have reclaimed their place in the galaxy, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning of a much greater adventure. As if in response, a streak of light shot across the sky, not falling debris, but a Narith ship heading out to explore the cosmos. Aria watched it go, feeling a sense of pride and hope for the future. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew the Narith would face them with courage, wisdom, and a spirit of discovery that matched her own. The end of one chapter, but the beginning of a grand new story among the stars.